if Charlie Carrel is such a good exploitative player as he claims to be, he could even check raise to like $75 here, hoping that he can just bully Manch off the table. That would be a pretty cool play. Wow, look at this. Queens, easy 3-bet 100% of the time. No RNGs to, potentially call or anything, just 3-bet. So it looks like we're going to go to 9, which is a little bit smaller than I would like, but my name is called it open small. It's small sizing on the 7 deuce 3, which is fair. The board is very, very dry, and the gentleman with the super Dutch name. So niet dom broer means not a stupid brother, kind of, if you translate it literally. So yeah, just by betting small, you can get a lot done. 10-8 is a pretty safe looking board. My name is Carl, could have an 8. He could have pocket 10s. I don't think he has kings or aces much, but you can value bet this board pretty aggressively. I would have maybe sized up a little bit, gotten some more value. Turn king is not a great card for your hand, but it's a great card for your range. As in, we're going to be betting the flop with hands like ace-king or king-queen or hands like king-9 suited that have a pair. But the thing is, my name is Carl will hit that king as well sometimes with the same types of hands. So Charlie's thinking, can I value bet here versus a combo draw? Meanwhile, the big blind leads now, which is not a really good play. I mean, we're going to have far more flushes than he will. We have a pretty major advantage here. So when a recreational player just check calls and then when draws get there, he donks to the next street, especially for a pretty big sizing, that usually indicates that he's got something pretty solid. So maybe he's bluffing, right? We saw in the previous hand when Charlie king 8 that the guy snap folded, so maybe there he was bluffing, but overall, I would say most guys just have something. So calling makes sense because we have a flush from a gut shot, even a bit of showdown value. The problem is that if you get shoved on after raising, you definitely, not probably, you would have to fold. Okay, so Charlie did end up checking with the queens, which is fine, and he block bet the river. Pretty cool play, actually. I really like his line. Again, it could have been a bit different. The sizes could have been a bit better, but that's not something that he needs to get right. I mean, he specializes in live tournaments, maybe live cash. So if he makes small mistakes in online cash games, that's fine. So the big blind now bets pretty large. I mean, it seems like he's just got something. So calling is out of the question. We'd have to bluff raise, but guys, as a general tip, don't bluff raise against recreational players. They're very aggressive lately. Sometimes you do have to, and I do sometimes. I definitely do it sometimes, but you have to be careful with it. Now, I get put in a very tough spot here. My name is Carl Raises, so he's representing hands like ace-queen. He's representing hands like pocket jacks. He's representing some type of check behind cool hand like pocket tens, for instance. So really tough spot to be in. What's important is that you also bet with the nuts like this sometimes, so you don't always get raised and run over. This one is actually pretty close. I wouldn't hate if he ended up calling here. It's a little bit suspicious, and my name is Carl. He's a good player. And obviously, for the sake of the stream, we want to see a call. Okay, so that hand makes a lot of sense. The nice thing is that we have 2 queens that prevent my name is Carl from having queens as often, right? So seeing that hand actually makes me kind of happy. I mean, not happy in the sense that we lost $544, which gets you many things, a couple of nice dinners, gets you some rent, gets you a month of rent in some places, but that hand we don't mind seeing. King-9 suited, meanwhile, seems like an easy 3-bet. Or not an easy 3-bet, but a fine 3-bet. The issue here is that you're 200 big blinds deep out of position, which really sucks. You're going to be in a lot of tough spots. Luckily, this board is not too bad for us. And by us, I mean my best friend Charlie and I. You can still be moderately aggressive on a board like this. I mean, we're going to have queens, we're going to have 9s, we're going to have overpairs and combo draws, so we're doing all right. So Charlie does end up checking here. If you decide to mix up your strategy here, King-9 suited is a fine hand to check with. It's not the type of hand that loves getting raised. Also, there's a lot of bad runouts. So if you're going to check, this hand is fine to do it with. And now, bittersweet card. On the one hand, we have trips with a good kicker, which makes us really want to put in more money. On the other hand, it's not a great card for our range, right? So we're going to be checking a couple of our 9x, but we don't have an insane amount of 9x here. So we can go for a small bet if we like. We can even be tricky and check. But I think a small bet is the standard play. Charlie goes for half pot, which is okay. Meanwhile, we open ace king under the gun and check on queen jack 8. This is a really good board for a button flatting range. He's going to have hands like pocket 8s and 10 unsuited and queen jack suited and ace queen and stuff like that. So not a spot in which you want to go crazy putting in money. River's a 10, which definitely complicates things. I could see Olio having pocket 10s here. I could see him having pocket jacks or queen jack. I can see him occasionally having a flush as well. So if Charlie wanted to get value, it'd have to be a pretty small bet. So the thing is, by betting so large, are you really getting called by a hand like pocket 8s? Are you really getting called by a hand like ace king with a king of diamonds? Are you really getting called by king queen, right? Queen jack beats you. Fuck, I actually misread this hand completely. I'm sorry, guys. So maybe I'm just a fish. For a second, I thought this was a 4 straight. So Charlie did bet big here. It's still a tricky spot because even though I have to stand corrected with my analysis, even though it's only a 3 straight board, given that the flush is out there, once you bet so large, your opponent's going to be calling you with a decent amount of flushes, right? Also, pocket 10s is a very realistic hand for him to have. So I don't mind the play, but you have to be a little bit careful here. And it's interesting to see that Oyo actually checked back the nut flush draw here, which is a pretty cool play in the sense that, you know, Charlie did not expect it. And Charlie would have lost a little bit more money because he didn't expect that Oyo had an ace-high flush draw. So the button bet's quite small, and you have 2 overcards that could be live and, you know, a gotcha to the nuts, so no way we're folding. And now the button player keeps stabbing for less than a third pot. Kind of confusing, right? He's kind of saying like he's got, I don't know, like king jack. He doesn't want to check. He doesn't want to bet too big. He just got something medium. So I think all 3 options make sense. If Charlie Carrel is such a good exploitative player as he claims to be, he could even check raise to like $75 here, hoping that he can just bully Manch off the table. That would be a pretty cool play. Wow, look at this. Yeah, this is a pretty cool play. If he thinks that the button just always has a medium strength hand, if he just bombs away, he can get a lot of folds. I like that play. Again, it's not a type of play I would recommend you always make against recreationals, but if you've got the read on him, why not? Okay, so now we're going off rails. You know, Charlie's been playing so well. I haven't fired any shots. Now maybe, Charlie may be bored, so he's going to start delivering some good content. He defends 8-7 off, which is, loose, but okay. It's funny because we've seen 2 tight folds, but he makes a pretty loose call given the rake. But, it's a bit loose, but it's all right. But now he actually leads on Jack 10-3. This is not a thing. Charlie never has pocket 10s here, I assume. He never has pocket jacks. He never has kings, queens, or aces. He has a limited amount of hands like ace-jack. Never has hands like ace-jack suited or king-queen suited. He's just very capped. He's very far behind on this board. Sure, he'll have hands like, jack 3 suited and pocket 3s. But his opponent's going to have those types of hands as well. Maybe not jack 3. So why would you lead? Why would you lead into your opponent when this board is better for him than it is for you? Now, if the board is something like 3-4-5, 4-5-6, it makes a lot more sense. That is quite a good board for you, not so much for your opponent. And now we decide to go for like 1.5x overbet. Again, doesn't really make that much sense. Yes, we've got a decent amount of jacks, I guess, but our opponent has them as well, and he's gonna have the better ones more often. So, and now we're bluffing for 1.5x pot with a weak gut shot. If the river's a 9 of clubs, you don't even love it. If the river's a 9, you have a straight, but it's a dominated straight on a paired board, and any other card just kind of sucks. So I guess you're trying to get your opponent to fold ace king at this point, or just some kind of 10-7 suited type of hand. But this is not how poker works. Yes, your opponent folded. You won the $64. Very nice. However, if you are behind with almost your entire range, it doesn't make sense to be leading out. Ace-deuce is mostly a call. This play, again, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We've got 3-4 suited. Maybe our opponent doesn't, but we don't have aces. We don't have all the ace-5 suited. We don't have ace-king. We don't have ace-queen. This makes very little sense. It makes a little bit more sense than on the previous board, but it doesn't really make sense. And it's also important to mind your checking range, right? If you're leading your strong hands and your draws, next time you check, you just got nothing. So when your opponent bets, you just always fold, or you call, fold on later streets. It's not good. If it's funny, it's well played. All right, fair enough. King 10 off, again, 3-bet sizing is a little bit off. The 3-bet, it's not crazy, but it's a bit too loose. I almost said king high board, but it's an ace high board. This board is really good for you. You can c-bet this board very liberally. This sizing is way too large. There's no reason to bet so large, right? If you've got an ace here, you are way ahead, or you're way behind. If you've got ace-5 suited, your opponent's got ace-queen suited, okay, you're way behind. But this is generally a way ahead, way behind spot. So giving your opponent a good price allows him to continue a little bit more often, right? And that's okay because, I mean, what are you afraid of? 4-5 suited hitting a gut shot? That's not very scary. I guess him hitting his flush, that's a little bit scary, but there's just not a whole lot going on here. You can bet very small. And now that Luckbox has quickly called such a big bet, he probably has an ace or a flush draw most of the time. So with the 10, no need to bet here. You know, you just got to hope he has pocket 9s or something. Hope he has a flush draw and bricks. There's no need to value bet this hand. There's no need to bluff this hand. Quick check behind. So now you've got to worry about the 4-5 suited. If I were Luckbox, I would think, listen, this is Charlie Carrel. He may be streaming. He just did something funny. He just snap 3-bet me. This guy may be up to something. I don't know if he's got some kind of side bet. I don't know if this is just how he plays, but something is up right here. So I wouldn't mind some type of tricky play by Luckbox here. And Luckbox has pocket 9s. Pretty bad play overall by him. I would say that's a 2.5 out of 10 play. Charlie's play is like a 4. 10 on offsuit. We got to defend versus the sizing. No way we can let this one go, especially if we hit a good board. So before, Charlie had a really good hand and he led really large. Now he's got a decent hand. He leads small. Again, not a great play. It's not a bad board for you. You're going to have a lot of good stuff here, right? Like Jack 7 suited. I don't know if Charlie defends 10-8 offsuit, but I assume he does. So he's going to be doing all right on this board. But again, you can't just lead when you've got a good hand and check when you've got a bad hand. And Charlie ends up checking. If I were My Name is Carl, I would just go absolutely mental here. Even way more mental than this. The thing is, we can see Charlie's game, right? We know what he's doing. My Name is Carl doesn't know anything like that yet. And now Epiphany is hoping that My Name is Carl is bluffing, that he's got a hand like, you know, King 10, for instance. I think My Name is Carl is really letting him off the hook. And if Epiphany raises, he's representing 0 hands. I mean, he leads really small on the flop. Then he snap calls the turn against a pretty decent size bet. And when My Name is Carl bets the sizing, now he check raises. Like, what are you representing? You know, would you really play 5-6 suited this way? Would you really play 10-8 this way, leading the flop and just check calling the turn? You know, I mean, it's possible, of course, but it's just very unlikely, right? So when you check raise here, you're just repping only bluffs. You're only repping hands like this. If I were My Name is Carl, I would call any value bet on this river. 2-8-8-8 it is. Yeah, he's repping absolutely nothing. Charlie actually does get the fold. It's possible that My Name is Carl was just bluffing here, but what the fuck is he representing? He's representing nothing. So it's very important to be consistent with your play, right? If you, let's say, raise pre-flop and bet, you may be bluffing, you may be value betting, but you're telling a consistent story of, hey, this board I like, I'm going to value bet. Whereas here, pre-flop, you defend, saying you've got a decent hand. On this flop, you've got a lot of decent hands, so you lead small. But then on the turn, which doesn't hurt you, you check call, right? So now you're just eliminating almost all of your good hands. And it's not as if on that run out, like the 4, like which hand do you really love now, right? Do you lead pocket 4s and check call the turn? That's a hand you could check raise to this sizing, but you never play your hand like this, right? So Jack 4 suited, I guess possible, but unlikely. 10-8, just slow play like a boss, maybe. But again, just unlikely. It just doesn't make any sense. And guys, a lot of you guys listening are playing low stakes, low mid stakes perhaps, or whatever stake you're playing. Keep it simple, right? Playing a more complicated game does not always mean you're playing better. So sometimes you have to complicate your game, right, to confuse your opponents, to be tricky and unpredictable, but it doesn't really make sense to just do it for the sake of doing it. And here, pocket eights. It seems like we flatted button versus under the gun. I have no idea what happened, but we've got a set. And I'm pretty sure Charlie's going to raise. Oh, but he doesn't. Wow. Okay. You know, you could raise, you can call, but what I like is that Charlie actually has been mixing it up a little bit. He's not just fast playing every good hand every single time. He's capable of slow playing some good stuff too. And now in the river, it's kind of difficult to pull off this bluff, right? I mean, your opponent bets big, very big, twice now, and you're just raising over the top of him. I mean, once you're raising, you're representing mostly sets. I don't think you're flatting ace king much, so I think you probably want to go for a little bit of a bigger raise here. But it's really difficult to sell the bluff. I mean, your opponent's just going crazy, betting big, being very polarized, and you just don't give a shit and you just raise over the top of him. That's showing a lot of strength. And tough spot for Luckbox, right? Imagine if he has a hand like ace king. He knows he can be behind against a set, but it's so hard to rep one. And Charlie's been so aggressive. He's been leading into him, doing funny stuff. If Luckbox has ace king, I don't think he should fold. We know he should fold, but that's not fair, right? So can't blame him. You know, Charlie's been very active so far, and can't blame. I don't think that this is a spot where Charlie will do a lot of bluffing necessarily, but overall we've seen a lot of spazzy plays, so can't fault him for calling with top two pair.